So I just had an epiphany. I woke up here in hell. I love epiphanies, a moment of insight, the conclusion of years or even decades of information input, study, um, and awareness and stuff. So I live for them. It's like such a great feeling when you get an epiphany, something that changes your reality, and it's like a new framework to build on or something. So I've realized I will never uh, I will never I will never I'm never gonna get married. So I don't really have a problem with that. For the longest time, I didn't ever think I would have a family, and I didn't think I'd ever be a father. And I always thought it was weird to involve the state in a private relationship, Um, and as I get older, I realize I would like to be a father if I was the kind of man that could be a good father. And that's part of the purpose of life, is to mm, for a man is to spread your seed, and for women it's to have children. That's not the only purpose, but that's one of the primary purposes. That's why life exists, and to not do that is kind of like feels like a crime against the the universe. But I have strong convictions that most men should not be fathers. Most men should not pass on their genes. Um, Most men are not uh, cut out to be fathers, and they're becoming fathers for the wrong reasons, and then you end up like me in a very bad situation. But let's see. But yeah, so for the longest time, I was like, I would never marry a woman, and I'll just be a playboy. And I realized, man, that takes money. It takes money to be a playboy, and it's kind of meaningless. You know, I think every man should go through that phase of being a playboy. If you can't lock down a wife very young, but every man has to choose for themselves what works. But it's too risky to get married in the modern world. In the I don't know what you call the world we live in today. The post third wave feminism world. I don't know. The socialist Western in the West. Like if we lived in a different society with different laws and stuff, then marriage is probably still the right choice. Like for most men who want to have a family. But I realize now, basically, I'll never live with a woman for legal reasons, and for I like to have my own space. So I would never share my home with a woman ever again. I did that before, and it was a disaster, and it was just unnecessary. Like you don't have to share your home with your wife and or with a woman that is exclusive to you. You don't have to. As a man, she can have her own place, and women today, they have jobs, they have their own income, so they can support. They don't need a man to pay their bills. They might like having a man to pay their bills, to elevate their standard of living, but it's not necessary. Women are much more employable than men. The average woman earns more than men. The average woman has more education than the average man. It's not like it used to be. So women can support themselves. We're seeing this trend now of beta cuck husbands, or what's the term? Stay-at-home fathers. The woman goes off to the office to run the company, or to work, and then the man stays at home and raises the kids. This is a huge increasing trend. And it's not his kids, it's often someone else's kids that he's raising, and he's just like basically like and it's I find it just repulsive and disgusting. And but we're seeing this more and more, and I don't think this is going to reverse anytime soon. I think it's going to get worse, much worse, until something changes in the culture. And it is changing, but I don't think we're through the eye of the storm. It's going to take like another generation or two probably to fix it completely, I think. But if it ever does get fixed. So yeah, so I will never. So ladies, sorry, I'm off the market. That's not why I'm off the market. I'm off the market because I'm just too sick. I'm too sick. But yeah, once I do get healthy and fix my life, I'll get my own place, and then I'll start dating. But it's gonna be a long time, many years. And if I do find a woman to be the mother of my children, she won't be living with me, and she'll have her own place. And young children don't need a man around. They just don't. It's weird. It's actually weird to have a man around in the while the woman's giving birth, while the woman is raising a young child. It's just weird to have a man present there. That's not natural. That's not normal. When a man becomes important, when a father becomes important in his child's life, is like I haven't looked into this enough yet, but I think it's like around the age of 8, 9, 10, 11, something like that. If it's a boy, then a little bit older if it's a girl. And if it's a girl, it's just to provide guidance, But and then if it's a boy, it's to. There's different ways to deal if it's a boy or a girl. But young children, a man shouldn't be present in their life, other than to, set a good example in certain situations. So I like the way Elon does his families. Elon's doing it right. And but yeah, this idea of like it's just not the world we live in. Doesn't work. It doesn't work this way. This idea of, unless you're really lucky and because I had the opportunity to have a wife when I was younger, and just I didn't have the money and stuff, and I was too immature, and I didn't know what I was doing, and she was the wrong woman for me. But so yeah, I'm just gonna hopefully be allowed to go back trucking and fix my life over the next decade. It's gonna take a decade to get all the cards in place, to get all the pieces in place, to get everything fixed: my health, my finances, my career, my education, my lifestyle, all these things. It's going to take a decade to fix all that. And I'm 39, so I'm really late now. So that means like when I'm 49, I'll start dating again, and I guess I'll be fathering kids in my 50s. If I'm lucky, I'll be able to start fathering kids when I'm in my 50s. And one of the first things I do when I get healthy is I put my reproductive genetics, cryopreserve that, assuming I can do that cost effectively, which I know it's expensive, but the costs are going to come down. They're going to keep coming down. But because we know as a man, the older you get, the more the less viable your genetic material is. Even though men can become fathers in their 70s, we do know that. But I'm wondering what does the autism rate look like? What does the rate of defects look like? But yeah, I'll basically be. Now all this could change if I found a woman, and it's so unlikely. It's like not going to happen. But like obviously, if I found a woman who didn't need any money from me, and she just loved me for me, and couldn't, and she had the resources to invest in me, maybe something would change. But I'm still never going to live with a woman. I'm never going to cohabitate with a woman. Never going to marry a woman, and I would never raise another man's kids. I would never raise another man's kids, and I would never it's hard to say never, but yeah, I would definitely never raise another man's kids. And then I would definitely, yeah, never marry a woman. Um, um, the institution of marriage has been corrupted. So, so, and and yeah, so and I do want to be involved in my kids' lives. But I'm not going to live with them. I'm not going to live with my kid, the mother of my kids or my kids. I would never live in the same house with them from a legal perspective, and then from a also just from a lifestyle perspective and a personal space. I love having my personal space. The older I get, the more I can't stand being around other people for more than brief periods of time. Even if I enjoy your company, I'm an extreme introvert. I love to be left alone. I love to be by myself. I can't stand sharing my work, my home, my kitchen. I couldn't even have roommates. My kitchen is when I have a home, I'm gonna have it set up just a certain way just for me, and it's gonna be annoying to have guests over. It's gonna be annoying to have guests in my private space. But that'll be all my home is for me only, and to entertain guests, and I'll never have anybody stay at my house. Never. Yeah. That you can come visit, but you're not staying the night. So, and it's actually not healthy. Brian Johnson is teaching us that it's not healthy to sleep in the same room as another person. I have questions about that, because I know that's not how we evolved. You had whole families sleeping essentially in one bed together. That's how we, but for warmth and stuff. But I would like to know where he's getting this data. But I do enjoy sleeping when I can sleep. I haven't slept right in a long time, but I do enjoy sleeping alone, and it doesn't, So also, I think there's something unsanitary, unhygienic, kind of weird about sharing your bed that you sleep in every night with someone else, another human being. So I think it's a personal thing. So yeah, so basically I'm never going to marry, and it doesn't mean I'm not going to be a father. Doesn't mean I'm not going to have amazing women in my life, but I would never be exclusive. I don't even know what that means, because everybody's cheating on everybody these days. Everyone is getting divorced. Everyone's cheating. It's just rampant, and it's not going to get any better. So this idea of monogamy, I think that was a good idea. I don't think that ever actually existed. In history, I don't think it ever existed. It's just not in our nature. We're sinful creatures. And everyone's everyone's got a side. I don't know the slang terms. Everyone's got someone they're seeing on the side. Everyone. So, and it's not going to change. That's just how the world is. Everyone's sleeping with everybody. In the workplace. Everywhere. Everyone's just sleeping around. Married, not married, whatever. It's just how the world is, and it's not going to change. And so, yeah, unless I think the only way I would marry someone is if I got her. If I could, I mean, you just got to think about how does this work from a man's perspective. If you can get like a virgin, like good luck. By the time they're 22, they've slept with 100 men. So, but let's say you can get a virgin, from a really ultra religious conservative family, and then and then she lives with you, so you keep a close eye on her, but then she's still going to be exposed to the crazy ideas, the radical ideas at work, in your community, wherever you live, unless you live in like a cult, or what is it, like a religious cult, I bet there's like places where there's no cheating going on. It's probably like in like Amish communities, or like ultra conservative, like radical conservative, like radical religious communities. like in the Muslim world, the women have to cover themselves up to go outside. That's where there's no cheating, and the wife is basically the property of the husband, But that's not how we live it in the West, and that's not gonna happen. I don't want Islam to take over the West. That'd be horrible. Um, so um, so things aren't going to go back, and I think about how this is going to play out in the distant future when every guy can get a sex robot that is like a 10 out of 10, doesn't complain, doesn't talk back. It's going to be really interesting, um, but let's see. But yeah, women are unhappy, or we see these women, they get into their 30s and they hit what's called the wall. It's where they realize they're not getting the attention from the men that they used to get, and it's very sad. And so these women need to lock down. And I'm not an expert on this, but I consume a lot of uh, personal development content for men, and a lot of it's around dating and relationships and marriage and this kind of stuff. And I've changed my views over the years. For the longest time, oh yeah, so women, my advice to women would be get married, find a man that's acceptable and ambitious, and no mental illness, no mental health problems, and he doesn't have to be perfect, as long as he's cares about you, and try to get him as young as possible, and get him to marry you if you can. If you won't commit to marriage, then you need it next to him immediately. But don't just keep every time you. I don't have the vocabulary, but every time a woman sleeps with a new man, her ability to pair bond decreases, and after and the science is clear on this, and it's not even a human thing, it's just like a mammalian thing, I think, or a primate thing. But after she's been with 10 different guys, that ability decreases to almost nothing. This is why women do what's called slut shaming. There's actually a evolutionary reason for that. There's some books on this. I need to read that I haven't read yet. But yeah, so women need to protect their innocence, because what men are attracted to and what women are attracted to are different. Women think men are attracted to what women are attracted to, and it's not. Men are attracted to youth and innocence and fertility markers, which are like health indicators. That's why women wear makeup and stuff. They're trying to look younger and healthier than they actually are. And so yeah, I would never. I don't want to say I would never, but I don't think I could ever seriously date a woman that is over 25 years old. It doesn't matter how old I get. After 25, they peak in beauty at 25, and then it starts to decline after that. It's called the wall. And by the time they're in their early to late 30s, I consider them untouchable. Actually, I consider them untouchable in their late 20s. So typically, and so women only have a short amount of time to find a man and lock him down and get pregnant. Women think they have until menopause. They don't have until menopause to have a kid. Now, in the future, it'll be interesting what happens with age reversal technology. Can we take a 55-year-old woman and make her look and feel like she's 25 again, and get her ovulating again? I don't think there's any reason we can't do that. I think that will happen probably, but that's a long time from now. And so yeah, my advice to women would be, if you have a man that you love, and you got to follow your heart, obviously, but and if he's a good man, if he, you need to, commit to him and be exclusive with him and try to have kids with him as soon as possible. Don't wait for a better guy, because women have this programming. It's called hypergamy, where they're always looking for a better guy, and eventually it's like a game of musical chairs. Eventually they run out of time, and they don't realize how much time is passing, and then they end up alone, and they become the crazy cat lady. And you don't want to be the crazy cat lady all by yourself. It's very sad. And so that's my advice to women. And then, yeah, my advice to myself is just figure out who you like, and become the kind of man that you can get the kind of women you like. And because for the longest time I thought I liked a certain type of woman, and I realized that's not a good woman. That's just someone that's fun. So having someone that's fun and having someone that's you can't make a hoe a housewife. There's basically two types of women. This is very general, but there's like two types of women in the world. There's hoes and housewives, and increasingly there's more hoes and less housewives available. So yeah, and to get a good housewife, you got to be a good man. And yeah, I would never have a housewife though. That doesn't work in the modern world. You can't have a wife anymore as a man, and I feel sad about this. I wish I could have a wife, but it doesn't work like that anymore in the world we live in. So I will never have a wife. I will never have a woman that lives with me. I will never have the idea of a married couple buying a single family house and raising kids together. That was a sliver in history. Like basically, I don't even know if that happened. I guess that happened for like a few hundred years, maybe. But we're going back to the way the world worked. We're going into a different world. So women raise the kids basically as a single mom, but with a man that's visits once a week and visits the family once a week, and if you want to call it a family. But I want to be a father. I want to have lots of kids, but I don't want them living with me, and I don't want them in my life especially not every day. But I just want to be there for guidance, and weekly check-ins, that kind of thing, and until they get old enough to actually need more of my time. And I think it's just the correct way to do things. So, but if you watch this movie, Down with Love, it's such a great movie. I mean, such a great movie. I never would have found it on my own. It's called Down with Love. That's the lifestyle that I want. The lifestyle of the main character. I want to say it's Ewan McGregor, is the actor. But that's the lifestyle that I want, And it was just a really great movie. I watched it several times when I was in jail, and I want to watch it again. It's such a good movie. But that kind of depicts the kind of life that would work for me. You have your own as a man, you have your own place, and you have women that come to your life, and you have fun with different women, and then if you have a good one, then have kids with her. But she doesn't, you don't marry her because it's just too risky from a legal perspective, and they can't be faithful. They can't be, they just can't. They have Instagram, they have Twitter, they've got guys, or they have Tinder. They've got guys hitting them up constantly, and you can't watch them while they're at work. You don't know what they're doing at work. They've got a male boss at work who's influencing things. So it's hopeless. If you want, you can either live in the fantasy that it's 1950s again, or you can just accept that the way the world is today and adapt to capitalize on the reality of the situation. and it's not saying it's necessarily worse. It's just different, you know. So I'd love to have many kids with many amazing women, and have many amazing women in my life, but it takes a lot of financial resources, because you still should be paying for your kids, you know. But the government shouldn't be involved. The government, there should be, the courts should not be involved. Um, it's totally cruel and it's evil, and but that's where I'm at. But yeah, I won't be dating while I'm in a truck. I can't date while I'm in a truck, and um, and then I won't be um, looking for anything serious for a long time. It's probably like 10, probably going to be a decade at least, if I'm lucky, and which means I'll be like 70 when my kids graduate high school, which is crazy. But hopefully, when I'm 70, I'll look and feel like I'm 40 or 30, and I don't see why that's not possible.